The year is 2025, a date that would live in infamy, not because of a surprise attack from a rival nation, but from the stars themselves. It started with a shadow, a colossal, organic-looking shape that blotted out the sun over the Pacific. We didn't know what it was. NORAD was scrambling, every satellite straining to get a clear image. When the clouds parted, we saw it. A Mon Calamari star cruiser. Not a movie prop, not a hoax. It was real, hanging in our sky like a monstrous, silent judgment. The world held its breath. For 3 days, it did nothing. It just floated there, a silent behemoth. Every news channel, every social media feed was consumed by it. Was it first contact? Were they friendly? Then a second ship appeared, and a third, until a full fleet of these strange, whale-like vessels had positioned themselves over the largest ocean on our planet. The United Nations held emergency sessions. Global leaders were in constant communication. But how do you talk to a ship that won't answer? The order came from a unified global command. We had to show we could defend ourselves. The combined might of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, and elements from the Australian, South Korean, and even the Chinese navies converged. An armada the likes of which the world had never seen. Supercarriers like the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Ronald Reagan, their decks packed with F-35s and Super Hornets, led the charge. Aegis destroyers, bristling with missiles, formed a protective screen. Beneath the waves, our most advanced nuclear submarines, the Virginia-class and the Astute-class, moved like silent hunters. It was a beautiful, terrifying sight. Dozens of gray steel warships cutting through the blue water, all converging on the point directly beneath the alien fleet. The tension was thicker than the ocean mist. On the bridge of the Gerald R. Ford, the fleet admiral gave the final warning, broadcasting on every known frequency. Unidentified vessels, you are in sovereign territory. Identify yourselves and state your intentions, or we will be forced to open fire. The only reply was silence. A deep, unsettling silence that seemed to mock our efforts. Then, the ocean began to churn. The water directly below the Mon Calamari ships started to glow with an eerie blue light. Sonar operators screamed into their headsets. Massive energy readings. Something is coming up from below, but it was too late. The water erupted. What emerged weren't ships, not in our sense. They were more like massive, armored sea creatures, sleek and powerful. Smaller, faster vessels that looked like manta rays flanked them. They were Mon Calamari submersibles, and they had been waiting for us. The first shots weren't missiles or bullets. They were beams of concentrated energy, brilliant green bolts that lanced out from the alien submersibles. The first salvo struck the destroyer USS John Finn. There was no explosion, no fire. The ship's forward section just vanished. One moment it was there, a proud warship. The next, a gaping hole of molten metal. Panic erupted across the fleet's comms. What was that? Shields? They have shields. Our projectile-based weapons were useless. A Tomahawk missile, our best and brightest, was swatted out of the air by a point defense laser, a tiny red spark against the massive alien hull. The battle had begun, and it was a slaughter. Our destroyers, the pride of our navies, were being picked off one by one. Their advanced Aegis combat systems, designed to track hundreds of conventional missiles, were overwhelmed by the sheer speed and energy of the alien weaponry. The air was filled with the roar of jet engines as our fighters launched. F-35s, the most advanced stealth fighters on Earth, screamed towards the enemy. Their pilots were the best in the world, but they were flying into a meat grinder. The Mon Calamari fighters, nimble, X-wing and A-wing-like craft, met them head-on. The dogfights were a chaotic ballet of light and metal. Our pilots were good, but they were fighting an enemy with superior technology. Their energy shields absorbed our cannon fire, and their laser cannons were devastatingly accurate. For every alien fighter we managed to take down, we lost 3 of our own. The sky over the Pacific became a graveyard of burning wreckage. Below the surface, a different kind of war was being waged. Our nuclear submarines, the apex predators of our oceans, found themselves outmatched. The Mon Calamari submersibles were faster, more maneuverable, and their energy torpedoes were terrifying. The USS Virginia, one of our most advanced subs, fired a full spread of Mark 48 torpedoes. We watched on sonar as the torpedoes closed in, only to detonate harmlessly against an invisible energy field. The return fire was a single, green torpedo. It didn't need to be a direct hit. The blast was so powerful it ruptured the Virginia's hull, and the pride of the U.S. submarine fleet imploded under the immense pressure of the deep. The fleet admiral, watching the unfolding disaster from the carrier's bridge, knew we were losing. We were fighting a 21st century war against a 25th century enemy. Our tactics, our weapons, our entire understanding of naval warfare was obsolete. He made a desperate choice. All ships, concentrate fire on the lead mothership. The big one. If we go down, we take them with us. Every remaining ship turned its weapons on the colossal star cruiser hanging in the sky. Missiles streaked upwards, a final, desperate prayer. For a moment, it seemed to work. The sheer volume of fire overwhelmed its lower shields. Explosions blossomed across its hull. A cheer went up on the bridges of a dozen ships. But the cheer died in their throats. The damage was superficial. Scorch marks on a mountain. Then, the star cruiser responded. It wasn't with a laser or a missile. A single, massive beam of blue-white energy shot down from its belly. It didn't target a ship. It targeted the ocean itself. The beam hit the water, and the sea flash-boiled. A wave, a literal tsunami hundreds of feet high, radiated outwards. It was a weapon of unimaginable power. Warships, even massive aircraft carriers, were tossed about like toys. The USS Gerald R. Ford, a 100,000-ton supercarrier, was lifted up and snapped in two. The fleet was annihilated in a single, brutal stroke. In a matter of hours, the most powerful naval force ever assembled was wiped from the face of the earth. The Battle of the Pacific was over. Humanity had fired its best shot, and we had lost. As the sun set, the Calamari fleet remained, silent and victorious, their shadows stretching over a now empty ocean. The invasion of Earth had begun, and we had just learned a terrifying lesson. We were no longer the masters of our own planet. The real war was just starting, and it wouldn't be fought on the seas, but for the survival of our entire species. We thought we were the sharks in the ocean, but we just found out what it feels like to be the bait. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more stories like this, be sure to subscribe.